A very warm welcome to our video. We, the students of University of Delhi of the Department of History, are here to present a short documentary in front of you as a part of our assignment of the course, The Conquest of America. This video is divided into four parts consisting of introduction, followed by the first and the second voyages of Christopher Columbus, and a conclusion with a comparison of the virtual and textual representation of the voyages. This video has been the outcome of collaborative efforts of our team members consisting of Vivek, Ashutosh Shukla, Rishi Sharma, Kartikeya Kahol, and myself Sahil Thakur. Now you will hear the voice of Kartikeya presenting the journey of Columbus in front of you.
Cristobal Colon later came to be known as Christopher Columbus, which was his anglicized name, was born in the year 1451 in the Republic of Genoa, one of the city-states of Italy. Columbus studied arithmetics, geography, and navigation in his formative years. He grew up in the heydays of geographical explorations, and getting inspired by it, he himself wanted to cross the narrow Western Ocean to discover a route to the Orient. But before leaving the waters of Western Europe, it was a very long struggle for him to find someone to support his cause. In the year 1485, Christopher Columbus visited the court of Spanish monarch King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella with his proposals. The Queen ordered the formation of a commission to inquire into the proposals he made and told him that presently the Spanish monarchy is focused on conquering Granada, the last Muslim land in Spain, and therefore he was asked to wait. Christopher therefore went on to meet King John II of Portugal. Later, he met the Duke of Medina Sidonia as well as the Duke of Medina Coeli. His brother Bartholomew Columbus went to King Henry VII of England, but only to find failures. It was only in the year 1490, when Grenada capitulated, that the Spanish monarchy agreed to finance him with men and material, despite the proposal being rejected by the Commission. An agreement was made, according to which, number one, Christopher was bestowed with the title of Don and High Admiral of the Ocean Sea. Number two, he was to be made the perpetual governor of such islands and mainland as he should discover. After the agreement was finalized, Christopher Columbus departed the city of Grenada and went to the seaport of Palos de la Frontera and prepared three ships suitable for his voyage. On 3rd of August 1492, Admiral Columbus, with three ships, the Santa Maria, the Nina, and the Pinta, departed and intended to sail until they reached Indies. By 6th of August, the Pinta, captained by Martin Alonso Pinzon, was damaged, and they made a stop at Canary Islands for repair. From here, the crew sailed to Gomera, and the three ships were loaded with provisions that included wood, food, and water. Admiral Columbus and his fleet traveled a certain amount of distance per day, but he decided to score up a smaller amount so that the crew should not lose courage if the voyage were long. He reckoned a lower value than original each time and therefore maintained two records of the journey. From September 14, 1492 onwards, the crew members started to see birds and other signs associated with landmass that included terns and boobies, as well as seaweeds and whales. But it was on 11th of October 1492 that a sailor named Rodrigo from Triana sighted the land, where the admiral went on board, raised the royal standard and banners, and made the required declarations. The natives called it Guanahani, whereas Columbus renamed it as San Salvador. Few days later, Columbus went ahead to find gold, precious stones, and spices. They also took some natives with them to know the source of gold. The crew reached another island, which was renamed as Santa Maria de la Conception, and their journey continued, and they discovered multiple islands, which were named as Fernandina, Isabella, Islas de Arena. In the Barrier Bay, the crew landed at Puerto del Príncipe and Santa Catalina, which was a part of the island of Cuba and was considered larger than other islands they had visited till now. The natives considered the Christian men to have come down from skies, and hence they regarded them with utmost hospitality and respect. Columbus observed ecological differences in the flora and the fauna. He saw many species of plants and trees, but it was difficult for him to recognize them, and he found no four-footed animal other than dogs. On 13th of November, the crew sailed off to Hispaniola, during which Martin Alonso Pinzon, the captain of Pinta, left the admiral deliberately for the gold in the island of Bohio. Columbus considered Hispaniola to be China and sent men to investigate about king and city or villages. On 24th of December 1492, Columbus lost his ship Santa Maria in the shallow waters due to the carelessness of the steersman, and the ship was damaged. Thus, Santa Maria was unloaded on the shore, and soon Columbus decided to make a settlement here, calling it La Navidad from the wreckages of Santa Maria. And some Christian men were left behind to reside here, governing and defending the settlement, which they joyfully accepted too. The admiral decided to leave for Castile as he realized that the Santa Maria has been damaged beyond recovery, and the Pinta has left under the captainship of Pinzon without any information, and therefore he was left with only one ship, the Nina. And in case it gets damaged, then the news of his discovery will not be able to reach home. While on the return journey, the admiral's ship was united with the Pinta again, and Pinzon explained his reasons why he had left him. By February 14th, 1493, due to rough weather, Pinta and Nina got separated again, and the crew of each thought that the other had sunk. The admiral's crew made several public and private vows for the safety of them and for the crew of Pinta. After experiencing another storm, they sailed to Lisbon and reached the king's harbor. And the king, hearing the news of his discoveries, agreed to meet Columbus at Valle de Paraiso. The king informed him that he believed to have been in violation of the Treaty of Elco Cavos 1479. After a week, the Columbus and his crew set sail again for Spain, and they arrived at the Palos harbor on 15th of March 1493. Later, he met with the monarch along with his queen at Barcelona and presented them with the gifts that he had brought from the New World, that included the native Indians, gold, cotton balls. The admiral was honored of accompanying king on his side when he rode through Barcelona, which was only allowed to Infante, who was king's close relative. The second expedition was designed to relieve the men who had remained there, to settle more colonies, and to conquer the island together with all the others that had been discovered and those that they hoped remained to be discovered. Columbus left Cadiz on September 25th, 1493, with favored weather and journey for 2 days, which later turned against them. The fleet for the second voyage was much larger. It consisted of two naus and 15 caravels. The two naus were the flagship Mariglante and the Gallega. In this, the Nina returned for this expedition, which also included a ship named Pinta, probably identical to that from the first expedition. In addition, The expedition saw the construction of the first ship in the Americas, the Santa Cruz or India. From Cadiz, they reached Grand Canary, where the ships were repaired, followed by Gomera to take stores of meat, wood, and water. Then they reached the island of Hierro, and for this time the weather was fairly good and supportive of their journey. On November 3, the land was sighted, an island named Dominica. On that Sunday morning, he mentioned that he saw an island lying ahead of the ships, and afterwards, another came in sight on the right. Later, six islands were seen in various directions. Most of them were large, all very mountainous, very beautiful, and very green down to the water's edge. There were no harbors, so the admiral moved to the other island on its right about 4 to 5 leagues away, which was named Mariglante. Next day, they departed in the morning for another island, which appeared beyond this one, very large and some 7 or 8 leagues away. They arrived at Guadeloupe and explored it. The caravel were sent ashore and they sighted some houses whose inhabitants fled. They took some of their possessions. There was much cotton spun and ready for spinning, and some of their food. There were also human arms and leg bones, hence, suspecting these as Carib Islands whose inhabitants eat human flesh. The admiral then set his course to discover them. These people seem to us more civilized than those elsewhere. All have straw houses, but these people build them much better and have larger stocks of provisions and show more signs of industry practiced by both men and women. They have much cotton, spun and ready for spinning, and much cotton cloth so well woven that it is no way inferior to the cloth of our own country. The Caribs wore around their legs 2 rings of woven cotton, one below the knee and one at the ankle. In this way, they make their calves large and constrict the knee and ankle. They seem to regard these as attractive, and by this feature we distinguish the Caribs from the others. They left the island 8 days after they arrived. Following this, they discovered islands of Montserrat, Santa Maria la Redona, Santa Maria de la Antigua, San Martin, Santa Cruz, and Puerto Rico. They then went on for Hispaniola. Later, Haiti and Bohio were discovered. In Hispaniola, Admiral left his people in company of a king called Guacamari. Next day, the Spanish fleet discovered the burnt remains of the Navidad fortress, and Guacanagri's cousin admitted that the Europeans had been wiped out by the Cenobio. While some suspicion was placed on Guacanagri, it gradually emerged that two of the Spaniards had formed a murderous gang in search of gold and women, prompting Cenobo's death. They established the settlement of La Isabela later, and Columbus spent some time exploring the interior of the island for gold. Finding some, he established a small fort in the interior. Later, they arrived at Cuba. In Cuba, Columbus explored the regions of Cabo de la Cruz, Santa Marta, Archipelago de los Caneros, and Isla de Evangelista. He then sailed across Jamaica and came back to La Isabela through the island of Mona, lying between Hispaniola and Guadeloupe. The Spanish committed atrocities also. In 1494, Alonso de Ojeda captured several natives on an accusation of theft. Ojeda cut the ears of one native and sent the others to La Isabela in chains, where Columbus ordered them to be decapitated. Margaret's men exploited natives by beating, raping, and enslaving them, and none were baptized in Hispaniola for another 2 years. In February 1495, Columbus shipped approximately 500 Americans to Spain to be sold as slaves. About 40% died en route, and half of the rest were sick upon arrival. Columbus' tribute system was described by his son Ferdinand in the Kibau, where the gold mines were. Every person of 14 years of age or upward was to pay a large hawk's bell of gold dust. All others were each to pay 25 pounds of cotton. Since there was no abundance of gold on the island, the natives had no chance of meeting the quota, and thousands are reported to have committed suicide. By 1497, the tribute system had all but collapsed. Columbus became ill in 1495, and during this time, his troops acted out of order, enacting cruelties on the natives. The Spanish fleet departed La Isabela on 10th of March 1496. Again, set back by unfavorable trade winds, supplies began to run low. On 10th of April, Columbus requested food from the natives of Guadeloupe. Upon going ashore, the Spaniards were ambushed by arrows. In response, they destroyed some huts. They then held a group of 13 native women and children hostage to force a sale of cassava. The Nina in India left Guadeloupe on 20th of April. By 8th of June, the fleet landed at Portugal near Odimera and returned to Spain via the Bay of Cadiz on 11th of June. Now, we will discuss movies in a comparative perspective with the textual sources in order to have a better understanding of the voyages undertaken by Christopher Columbus. A central theme in all the movies made on Columbus is that they all try very hard to protect the good name of Columbus, which has been etched in the minds of the people. The film perpetuated the myths and the heroic misconceptions about Columbus, such as the flat earth debate. They do not show who he really was. Columbus, in fact, stole the credit from one of his men for being the first to see the land. In one of the movies, Columbus is shown as having a certain amount of respect for the natives until he realizes that they do not have enough gold. In reality, Columbus never had any respect for the natives and was always critical of them, for all part considering them as barbarians. The movies cover the story of Columbus from the discoverer's eye and does no justice to the locals of the islands. The movie takes place on a ship, land is sighted through the telescope, and the locals just hide behind the trees. One of the movies shows that the crew of the Columbus got restless when they did not spot land for 9 weeks, whereas in the books we read that the first voyage of Columbus took 5 weeks. In the movie, Columbus states that the natives are to be treated with respect and honor, whereas we see in Columbus' journal that he says that they ought to make good servants for they repeat whatever we tell them. The movie shows that when he asked the locals about the gold, they led him to Cuba, whereas he made some of them prisoner and then headed to Cuba. Movies shows that Columbus asked the permission of the Cacique chief to leave 39 men behind and build a fort to stay until he returns, whereas the real reason for that was that the Santa Maria ran aground and the Nina did not have enough room for all the men. The movie ignores the encounter of Columbus with the Kigoas of Samana Peninsula, who were the only natives to attack the Spanish, killing two of them. The movies show that all the three boats returned, whereas it was the material from the abandoned Santa Maria that was used to make the land habitat settlement. The movies show all the evils which Columbus did, but show no involvement of him in it, hence leaving him blameless. The movies do not show the atrocities of Columbus in the extent of which he did. Bartoloma de Casas, the priest in Santo Domingo, estimated the death toll of the locals between 1494 to 1508 at 3 million. The films skip the fourth voyage of Columbus for some reason and have no depiction of it.